Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below. And actually today, leave a comment. I've been told I need to check more comments when we go live. And leave a comment. We'll try to do it. Like I said, we don't ask or beg for super chats, but it does help highlight that particular question that you would like answered tonight. All right. So let's do that. And remember, you can also check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. So I was running a few minutes late tonight. I apologize. Sometimes the real world gets in the way of doing all the fun stuff, which is coming here and hanging out with you all. We appreciate that. Appreciate everyone in our little Crime Talk aficionado community. Now, we put a video up today. It was a little late because I was driving all over the great state of Colorado today. You would think in a big city like Denver, right? It's small compared to the many, but you would think that the feds would be able to keep all of their prisoners in a nice central location here in the Denver metropolitan area. If you were to think that, though, however, you would be incorrect. You'd be so incorrect that you'd say, no, Scott, why would they do that? Yes. Most of the jails where federal inmates are held seem to be on average about 2 hours away. So think about that. I don't know about you, but I usually don't have 5 hours just I can block out of any particular day. I have to actually plan for it pretty far in advance so I can go do something, or unless something, frees up because of a trial or something goes away. And then, you can actually, do it, so to speak. But yeah, so 2.5 hours each way, ran into weather both ways down in Colorado Springs and then off into Teller County. But we are back. And I know you don't want to hear about that, but, every time somebody gets sentenced in a case, particularly a serious case, in this case, a federal felony case, they do a pre-sentence investigation report. And sometimes that report is some little thing may sway the judge, between knocking off a little bit of time or maybe going up the other direction. So yeah, it's one of the more important things that you can do is to kind of be there with your client in a significant case so they don't say something to, really screw themselves up. So when they start asking about the case, you're like, no, Mr. Probation Officer, I respect you immensely. But we'll talk about that in court, and I'll be doing the talking on that one. So that was the extent of my day. And then, it's been one of those days when you find out your clients, it all comes at once. People are like, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. And then bam, bam, bam. 3 people today got calls from detectives on cases we were thinking were going to go away. Or they're finding out that you're going to have charges filed against you. So let's just say it's been a busy afternoon. But you know who also had a busy afternoon? That's right. The former mayor in Louisiana, in DeRidder, Radder, the mayor down there, Misty Roberts. I mean, I don't know, Misty. I mean, a name like Misty, and not, I'm not throwing stones at people with names like Misty, but I don't know, Misty, Louisiana, you were bound to have sex with a 16-year-old boy at your home, and your children testifying against you. So she was found guilty of carnal knowledge of a juvenile and indecent behavior with a juvenile, both felonies. The boy that was the victim in this particular case told the jury that he was drunk and that he and Roberts had sex. But guess what? The ex-mayor's children and nephew also testified at the trial. They said that they saw her and the teen together, but did not see whether they had sexual intercourse. See, I thought some of the testimony was that one of the kids I think the son was looking through like a blind or something. Like, hey, mom's having sex with my best friend. Ew, right? Anyway, a DoorDash driver testified that he delivered emergency contraception to Robert's home after the reported encounter. Additionally, the prosecution showed a photo of the party in which Roberts is seen in a bikini with the teen smiling up at her. Anyway, Roberts' sentencing is now scheduled for April 17th at 9 a.m. Carnal knowledge carries a sentence of up to 10 years in prison, and the indecent exposure carries up to 7 years, and she is going to have to be required to register as a sex offender. So, do you think she's going to get prison, or do you think that she's going to get probation? You think because she's a white female and this, poor young kid, he was probably high-fiving all his buddies shortly after this, maybe not his mom, his friend's mom's son, but, her, Misty's son probably would not be high-fiving him. But yeah, I think most of those kids want to move away. At least Misty's parents' kids would like to move away. Having to deal with that walking into school every day for the rest of your life. Hey, isn't your mom that sex offender that has sex at pool parties with your friends? Yes. Misty, Misty, Misty. What's that song? Was that a movie? Play Misty for Me? Oh, it was a Clint Eastwood movie, I think, years ago. Let's see. Oh, what do we got here, Frank? Hold on. Frank's going to pull something up for me. So a panel of 6 jurors deliberated for less than an hour Tuesday after hearing 5 days of arguments, witness testimony, and evidence in the case. April 17th is for sentencing. Witnesses testify that Roberts provided alcohol to her teenage son, nephew, and their friends during a July 2024 birthday party before having sex with one of their friends. They says that Roberts got drunk at her teenage son's birthday party before disappearing to an upstairs game room with a 16-year-old boy. The victim testified that he was drunk that night of the party when Roberts told him he looked good, winked at him, danced with him, took a photo with him, grabbed him, and kissed him, according to the affidavit. The victim said that he felt dizzy and strange, and that when Roberts said they shouldn't continue kissing outside, he asked if they could go upstairs. The victim testified that they had sex upstairs in the game room, and it wasn't until after he had sex, he realized what was actually happening. Now, Robert's son, nephew, and friend testified last week that they went upstairs and saw the mayor and their friend having sex through blinds in a window of the game room. And when Roberts and the victim came downstairs, Roberts and her son got into an argument. Oh, really? You think? Mom, why were you having sex with my best friend? Anyway, the defense portrayed a case built around rumors shared by teenagers in a small town. The defense attorney asked if his client's son, if he actually saw his mother having sex with his friend. Robert's son said he couldn't confirm, but it looked like it from what he saw. Text messages between Robert and her nephew the day after indicate the mayor was scared to death, although the defense attorney pointed out that at no point in the exchange did she explicitly refer to having sex with the boy. And then the DoorDash driver also testified last week that he delivered Plan B emergency contraceptive for a customer named Misty to her address a day before she was arrested and accused of having sex with a teenager. This is where it really gets good. Duncan Clayton, Robert's ex-husband, testified last week that she told him directly that she had sex with a 16-year-old boy and that they were caught in the act. Needless to say, because she's a good politician, Roberts resigned from her elected position just a few days before the arrest warrant was issued. Anyway, Judge Savio, Savioie, sits in the Third Circuit, presiding over the trial, and will sentence Roberts on April 17th. He's acting as an ad hoc district judge for the case because of the recusals of the other district judges. Because apparently it's a small town and everybody knows everybody in a small town. I assure you of that, ladies and gentlemen. And when they say, listen, I have learned this. When you go to a small town to do a trial, you always get small town counsel, because it was the case. Remember, Frank, I took you to that case. Remember, down in southeastern Colorado, we won that case, but we lost. Got criminally negligent homicide. Frank put together this beautiful montage. It just went off. And of course, when you're accused of killing your spouse, that's not a good thing. And the first one thing you always say is, well, don't get a girlfriend between now and trial. Well, apparently everybody knew that, except me. Everybody in town knew that he had a new girlfriend. Didn't help. Found out, at sentencing. How long have you had this new girlfriend? Oh, a little while now. Like I said, apparently small towns, everybody knows everybody. So always remember, never forget, small towns, man, get local counsel that has their ear. We beat. Let me just tell you, that case involved a gun that had a tendency to go off, allegedly, because I don't want to get sued, because they sued the other attorney that sued him. And the corporate attorney was like, dude, I thought you won the case. I'm thinking they're going to write us we're going to win this case. We're going to get like $50 million. It's going to be wonderful. Didn't quite work out that way. You just can't, you got to wait. You got to wait till it's done. All right, let's take a couple of questions here. Now we put up the Nancy case down there in Arizona, Nancy Guthrie. Apparently the FBI saying they're tracking down leads, man. They're tracking down leads. They figured out, or have an idea apparently, who's doing it. Now, I don't have any inside scoops on this one, but I've told you way back, go watch the video. When that video came out on the front porch, they're not going to get it because clearly the guy had his head covered up. His hands were covered up. My guess is the guy knew he had tattoos on his hands. That's why he covered them up so closely. My guess. Also DNA, right? Fingerprints. Now he's going to find out it's not his first rodeo. But where are they going to get this guy? They're going to get him from the items sold at the store. They're going to go. They've said that those backpack was sold at Walmart. The jacket, I think, was sold at Walmart. And they're going to go back to every Walmart in like a 6-state area and literally take a look at and see who ordered or purchased those items at it. Because most people don't realize those stores have an incredible system and they know exactly every item that was sold on what date. They can literally trace it down to the aisle that it was purchased at. And then what do? Then they go back and they look at the video of that particular aisle at that particular time. I don't have any inside scoop, but I'm just making an educated guess as to how that is going to happen. And hopefully that's the case. I feel terrible for Savannah and her brothers and sister that they have not been able to have their mom, Nancy, come home. That's obviously a tragedy. Who takes an 84-year-old woman from their house? Once again, I think I said early on, it was a home invasion gone bad. Somebody panicked. Somebody freaked out. They figured, oh, let's go down this, let's get her out of here. Well, she saw us. She'll be able to do something. And they maybe figured, oh, no one will even know she's gone. We'll make her getaway. Somebody screwed up. They always do. Home invasions are probably one of the dumbest things you could possibly do. And we've had I've done home invasion cases. Heck, we got one right now. It's not good. Literally, the cops arrest people that are walking out of the house, for God's sakes, in the freaking daylight. Not a good case. Had one. Oftentimes, it's obviously drug related. Home invasions are notorious in the drug trade. Somebody knows there's drugs, they go and get it. One of the best ones I ever did years ago. Great case, man. I became an expert on duct tape. Duct tape was made in World War II to patch up boats if they got leaks, from damage. So my guy allegedly comes and finds two people, or basically there's a girl that everybody knew. Her boyfriend got in trouble. What? For selling drugs. So the word on the street was, oh, they must have been, there must be drugs in the house, because everybody thinks when somebody goes to jail that there's drugs in the house. Not true. They always get rid of them, or the cops take them. The one home invasion where somebody got killed, multiple people got killed, they'd taken the drugs. Anyway, so they go and they kidnapped. It was this two females and a male. The male was my client, and the girls go in. They tie up the girl, allegedly my client comes in as well. They tie her up, steal everything, leave the house. The two girls plead guilty. These girls were going to college, like they were going places. My client was a little bit older. Anyway, we go to trial. And we got a not guilty. And what was it, you might add, that did that? It's called the accomplice instruction. Now, most people don't know about the accomplice instruction, but the accomplice instruction basically says, if there's no other evidence that corroborates a cooperating co-defendant, you must take that testimony with a grain of salt. And basically that, if there is no corroborating evidence, that's the only time you're entitled to it. So we had this knockdown, drag out battle in front of a very smart judge that there was corroborating evidence. And it's like, well, judge, I'm like, there's no corroborating evidence other than these girls said they do it. And the DA's argument was they found duct tape in my guy's apartment in his toolbox in the closet. They had tested the duct tape. They tried to see if it was from the same tear of the duct tape. It was inconclusive. They couldn't tell what it was, but I knew everything about duct tape. I could cross-examine for hours on duct tape. And really what it came down to is they couldn't match it up. And I'm like, Judge, duct tape is duct tape. And you can't say that this duct tape is his, therefore not corroborating. I get the instruction. My guy walks. Not guilty. It was beautiful. Beautiful. Now, it was a little awkward the next day. I guess that was, we got the jury verdict Friday night, but on Monday, those two girls were getting sentenced for their role in the home invasion, burglary, robbery that they testified they participated in, which they did. How dare they accuse my client of such a heinous crime? A little awkward seeing their attorney, hey man, how you doing? That's always the worst, when your client gets convicted and maybe somebody else gets a better deal. You're like, what? Like, you're killing me, man. You have to be able to explain it. But anyway, so burglary gone bad. It happens all the time. Nancy Guthrie, hopefully she'll come home soon. Obviously, I think most people are of the mindset now she probably didn't make it. And I hate to be the one to actually say that, but let's get real. That's probably the case. Let me see here, see if there's any questions here. Oh, see, somebody's there. Mom Pink. I'm not sure, but Scott's saying they think they'll get buying the backpack. I think he's onto something there. It's going to come from some other clue. Hold on one second. Sorry. Sorry. It never ends. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen, but it never ends. Anyway, I had to take that text. That's my call when I get done with this. I don't know. I just can't. Misty Roberts, the mayor. I don't know why. For some reason, it just never clicked to me. We've covered the story quite a bit. We didn't televise the trial, but I don't know. There's something about Misty. With a name like Misty, she had to get arrested for having sex with 16-year-old boys, right? I mean, I scroll down a little bit. I can't see it. Brother of Louisiana accused of raping a 6-year-old has hunting similar criminal past. Really? He did the same thing?
Yeah.
No way. It's like a family thing. The brother of the disgraced Louisiana mayor who is on trial for allegedly raping her son's teenage best friend and convicted today, I might add. Misty Roberts' brother, Brandon Lee Roberts, admitted in November to raping a teenage girl and a young woman over the course of several years. The guilty plea landed him in prison, sentenced for 32 years behind bars. Wow, wow, 32-year sentence. You know what they say? A family that does time together stays together. They can sit around, think about the old times. They're both going to be registered sex offenders, so if they ever get out, they can, live at the same place together.
That's bad parenting, right?
The what?
Bad parenting.
Yeah, bad parenting. My God, their parents should be charged if they're still around. We talked about that. Okay. What's the guy's name? Cole? Colton Gray. Colin Gray, the dad, accused of supplying the firearm to his son, who Colton Gray, that went and killed two people down in Georgia. Guilty on all counts as well. And I think that it was like a minimum 80-year sentence, or he could get up to 80 years on that. Like I said, we were talking about this in the office when I said the verdict came down, and all the attorneys we all just shook our head. Like, are you serious? Are you freaking serious? So the father, whose son is accused of fatally shooting two teachers and two classmates at the Georgia high school in 2024, was found guilty of murder, manslaughter, and other charges he faced providing his son the gun allegedly used in the shooting. The jury convicted Colin Gray, 55, on 27 counts, including second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, reckless conduct, and cruelty to children after less than 2 hours of deliberation, which means the jury was like, yeah, we're done. And remember, he testified in his own defense as well, so that obviously didn't go well. 2 charges of cruelty to children in the second degree were dismissed before the jury deliberated. The most serious charge, second-degree murder, is punishable by up to 30 years in prison, less than murder, but more than involuntary manslaughter. Apparently, little emotion shown when the verdict was read, which means he probably figured that's what it was going to be. This is one of those cases you got to go try it, take it up on appeal, and see if some legal errors were made. Anyway, like I said, Colin testified during his 2-week trial that he gave his son, Colt Gray, the rifle as a Christmas present. Prosecutors say the rifle was later used in the attack. Prosecutors argued that Colin Gray should have known the danger his son posed. The case was about who armed Colt and who enabled him to do what he did, the prosecutor said. This is dangerous territory, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's going to make everybody feel really good. Oh, look, we got the guy. This will show you parents shouldn't give guns to kids. Oh, it's terrible. Guns are bad. If there weren't any guns, there would be no bad people in the world. That's what people are going to say, and they're going to make them feel really good about themselves. But the reality is that be afraid. Be very, very afraid. We talked about this with the case up in Michigan for the parents that were convicted up there. This everyone referred to as the novel event, novel legal theory that they were going to go forward on. And I said, be careful, because one court did it, and the Michigan Supreme Court said, yeah, we're going to allow this. And it was only a matter of time till the next school shooting, right? And then they're going to charge somebody else. And they did that to Mr. Gray. Now, like I said, is Mr. Gray going to get the Parent of the Year award? Absolutely not. But do you think the guy needs to go to prison for something that he didn't do? And let me emphasize this, ladies and gentlemen. Criminal law is based upon your mental knowledge. What you knowingly did or recklessly did. All of these counts as it relates to parents is that it was negligence. It was under a theory of negligence that, according to the prosecutor, even said that the prosecutors say he should have known. Ladies and gentlemen, you are lowering the bar for the criminal defense world. And if everything is criminal in nature under a negligence standard, I'm just telling you, y'all better line up. Y'all better line up. Go get your booking photos done because on a negligence standard, you could all be charged. Okay. You got a kid, they do something stupid. Think about it. Kids come over and they raid your liquor cabinet. Somebody gets drunk. Somebody gets sick. Somebody goes to the hospital. Nobody gets killed, right? You should have known. You know you're a kid. You know. Come on. You know. And you know they were eventually going to do it because it's reasonably foreseeable. That's the negligence standard, right? When somebody says a tort is a civil wrong done to you. You have to show that there was a duty, you breached that duty, and there was negligence, that it was reasonably foreseeable. Foreseeability, ladies and gentlemen. And that's like saying, well, you should have known, man. You should have known. You should have known. That is scary, scary stuff. Like I said, all you bad parents out there, okay, who through some course of their history as a parent probably thinks maybe they screwed up. Maybe they could have done a little bit better. Maybe, but for the grace of God, your kids didn't get caught. Maybe, it all worked out okay. But crazy. And then we talked about the kid. What was it was Miami, wasn't it, Frank, yesterday, the story we did? Let me just pull this. The two teens. Now, this is where what we did yesterday on the show. Yeah, let me pull this up here. Was two teens arrested for rape of a girl who's 12. Okay? 12, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Not good. Not good. They pled guilty. But
not guilty.
Yeah, not guilty. They played not guilty. They say emotions ran high in the courthouse Monday as attorneys for 2 out of the 3 boys charged in the rape of a 12-year-old girl entered not guilty pleas on their behalf. The minors who are being charged as adults did not appear in court and remain behind bars as their families dispute police reports and push for their release. Now, during the hearing, one of the boys' mothers sat in the gallery and was visibly emotional, and attorneys argued that her son should not be held in an adult jail. But the judge wasn't moved to act and set a date for a future hearing. The mother said it's not true. The suspects, ages 12, 13, and 15, were initially arrested after the alleged rape that happened on June 18th of 2025 at a community garden in Miami. But records show 2 of them were booked into the Metro West Detention Center on Thursday to face the adult charges. A grand jury indicted the boys on various charges, including kidnapping and false imprisonment. According to the arrest forms, one of the boys grabbed the girl, took her to a couch, while the other 2 held her down. The report claims one of the boys put rocks in her mouth to help her to stop her from screaming, while the other boy raped her. The victim told detectives they finally stopped after hearing her father calling her name. Father of one of the suspects disputed the allegations, and he said, "He is not the child you guys are making him out to be," he said. "This is a 12-year-old boy we're talking about. We are going to leave him in jail and put a life charge on a young man that was with the wrong two kids. The boy's family is disputing the police reports. You guys are making him out to be a rapist, which he is not, the father said. The defense attorney said he entered not guilty pleas on all charges for his client, as did the attorney for the other teen. Both will be fighting hard to get their clients out of jail. For now, the boys will remain in custody until the Arthur hearing on March 18th, where a judge will decide whether they will be continued to prosecuted and held as adults. The 15-year-old faces sexual battery charges. His case was reset and transferred to another judge. So what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Should we charge those parents too? I mean, they should have known. Obviously, they knew what their son was capable of, right? I mean, they're their parents. Of course they know what's going on. Or maybe they're bad parents and they didn't know what was going on, and therefore they should be held criminally responsible. Now, don't get me wrong. If these boys did what they did at that age, I think they should be charged as an adult. I really do. It's not going to be pleasant for them, unless somebody maybe takes them under their wing in there. If not, it is not going to be pretty. I would not want to be a 12 or 13-year-old in an adult prison. Those kids have probably got to be terrified to death. But when you start making big kid decisions, you got to deal with some big kid consequences that come along with it. Okay, let's see. Here's the thing. Gen Z, I have 3 adult children who have made dumb mistakes in their lives. And do I wish I would have done things differently sometimes? Yes. Do I want to be held responsible for every dumb thing they've ever done? I know. Gen Z, I'm telling you, but this is opening it up. If someone says, maybe we just can't get enough pound of flesh out of that young kid, we'll get the parents too, right? And then you have to start looking at how is it going to be used? How is it going to be used appropriately, so to speak? If we start prosecuting parents for the crimes of children, do we, maybe go towards the poor families and make an example out of them? Maybe they don't have the resources to get a defense. Or you think how many, people that live in affluent neighborhoods, you think they're going to go after if their kids screw up, right? Think about the case out in Los Angeles that Alan Jackson's doing, the guy that killed the 3 or 4 Pepperdine young girls. Kids driving the car. I think it was actually registered to dad. Parents knew he was not a great driver. Should they be charged as well? I mean, it's reasonably foreseeable. I mean, what's foreseeable? You knew the kid was not a good driver. Maybe they just suck at driving. Maybe they're, they got a lead foot. Where does it stop, ladies and gentlemen? And like I said, you can go back. You can go back when this stuff all started out in the Crumley case there in Michigan. I said, be careful. Be careful what you wish for. And I said, I know everybody wants to have a little bit of justice. And I was really hoping the appellate courts would say, no, 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 no. And not because, like I said, the Crumleys or Mr. Gray, I could care less about them in all honesty. But in the bigger picture, it's a scary thing where things could ultimately be headed because it could be you. It could be you, right? And then they say it takes a village, right? Well, who in the village is responsible? If it takes a village, if we're all responsible for them, like I said, I really think, and this is going to be a very unpopular position because all the teachers and the teachers unions would hate it. But really what it boils down to is who spends more time with your children throughout the day than even sometimes the parents, right? Parents get them up, you get them out of bed, you get them out to school. They're at school all day. Then they got some activities. Who spends most of the time with them during the day? The teachers. So why are we not holding the teachers responsible for these people, for their kids that do something wrong? Let's see, who put this one up? That's a fair question, Augusta. The law typically draws a line that what parents are responsible for and what adult children are accountable for. And in the Gray trial, the focus on what can actually be proven. Speculation about home life is common, but in court, it's all about evidence, not assumptions. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. Teachers. That's right. They spend most of the time with the children. Do you think the teacher union is going to stand for that taking place? That's like saying we're going to charge all the police officers, charge the mayor. Maybe in Louisiana, charge the mayor. She loves the children, right? It's always about the children. Misty. I mean, my God, there's just something, I don't know what it is with the name Misty. You just knew, it just never clicked. She's having sex with a 16-year-old kid. Yes, Gen Z has, yes. Hold on. Yes, she commented that Alan Jackson was the attorney in that particular case. Yes. Now, Augusta, it's sick that they're sticking up for their kid after that kid's sexual assault, a little girl. They should be ashamed of themselves. Oh, don't worry. The big boys will handle those boys. Unfortunately, they will. There is a hierarchy in prison. Rapists are very low on that list. Because, a lot of people in prison, either their mom or maybe they were abused or their sisters or something like that. So they, oftentimes they protect them. You don't want to do that. But, hey, it's the parents, the kid's parents, right? And maybe that's the thing that you look at. Oh my gosh, these parents are saying their kid did nothing wrong. We'll show them. We'll charge them. That'll shut them up. Got to be careful. And if the boys don't get in enough trouble, they'll do it again.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, you got to have some consequences to some things. Like I said, and those two young boys, I mean, that's clearly adult conduct. Okay. There's certain crimes, no matter where you go throughout the world, for the most part, civilized world, murder and rape. You just don't do them. Everybody knows that, right? Civilized world, you just don't do that. And yet, obviously, still they are. Mama Pink has a story here. Gen Z, when my daughter had a solo car crash with a DUI, I didn't find out for 6 weeks after her arrest. She knew I'm not the one to make the phone call and they do something illegal and dangerous. I understand, but imagine if that was a juvenile, Mama Pink, and they'd say, "Oh, you should have known." That's what I'm telling you. It's going to get scary. And think about it, knowingly, different standard, and knowing you knew what you were doing, aware of your conduct, practically certain to cause the result. That is how criminal law is charged. You knowingly did something recklessly. You knew of a complete danger and a complete knowing disregard of it. But all this other stuff is negligence. Is it reasonably foreseeable? Is it reasonably foreseeable that, if it snows and you don't shovel your walk within the first, say 12 hours, it's going to turn to ice and somebody's going to slip and fall? Probably, right? Reasonably foreseeable. But how do you predict a kid's conduct? What if the parents have been trying to get him help and you failed? Maybe the therapist, the school, like I said, I'm not condoning the Colin Gray thing at all. The kid committed, 4 murders, charges an adult, needs to go to prison for the rest of his life. I got no sympathy for that kid at all. But if you want to get into the blame game, what about the parents? The Crumley case, right? The teacher said, "Hey, we think we got a problem," called the parents in, and the parents, they said, "Well, did nothing," right? "Oh, we'll talk about this when we get home," right? I don't know about you, but if you ever had your parents called to school because you did something, maybe once or twice, you were more concerned about what the hell was going to happen when you got home, right? That's back in the day when, you would get the belt. And you knew you were going to get the belt and you were more worried about what was going to take place when you got home than, we did that. I remember, I remember when we got in trouble in school. A friend of mine, I still see him, my friend Dallas. I don't know what we were doing, but we were doing something stupid. We were in class and made some disruption, and maybe somebody said something inappropriate. And the teacher, who somehow knew my mother, was like, I want a note from your mother tomorrow stating that you told her what you did and said in class, and acknowledging that. And I was like, oh my God, my mother's going to kill me. My father is going to kill me for getting in trouble. Like, this is the worst thing ever. And I remember, since my friend Dallas helped me get in trouble, we're like, we'll get out of this. And so it was like, we would ride to school in the morning. I think I drove it that week. And so I went over to his house early that morning. Good morning, Mrs. Gavito. Don't you look lovely? Could you please write a note for me? And signed it. Yes. I don't know. It's we've all been there. We've all been there, but you got to be very, very careful if you go down that road, for sure. Yeah, Rob Reiner. I mean, my God, think about Rob Reiner, for goodness sakes. Now, obviously, you can't prosecute them because they're dead, because allegedly their son killed them both while they slept with a knife. One could argue that they enabled him, right? They had all the resources in the world, but they couldn't help this kid get better. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he was not fixable, right? But all the stuff that he engaged in, I mean, think about it. It's just a slippery slope. And like I said, I know it makes everybody feel better because it was guns, and guns are bad, and we need to punish people, and maybe they won't do this again. But, it wasn't the gun, right? It was the kid. Maybe the dad should have exercised, yes, a little better discretion. But do you think the dad was like, son, we're going to go down and shoot up that school today? No. And if he did, I would say he needs to be prosecuted as a complicitor. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. If you are complicit, all right, you have conspiracy, which is an agreement between two or more people to commit an illegal act. Everybody knows what the plan is, right? We're going to get the gun. We're going to get the masks, and we're going to go and rob the bank. That's a agreement between two or more people to commit an illegal act. Conspiracy. But then it's not a charge, but it is a legal theory of culpability called complicity. All right? Complicity is if you aid, encourage, abet, or assist somebody in the commission of an offense, you can be charged just like you did it yourself. Okay? Quick example. I say, hey, Frank, on the way home, can I get a lift? I need to run an errand. And hey, would you mind turning down this street? And Frank turns down the street. As we drive by, I shoot a couple of rounds into a house. Did Frank know what the hell was going on? No. Probably not guilty, right? But if I say, hey, Frank, man, there's this other YouTube guy said some nasty stuff about me. I think we go over there and we take care of him tonight. What do you think? Yeah. Right? Yeah, we scare him. We'll just scare him. We'll drive by a house, give him dirty looks. We go by the house. I drive by. Frank thinks I'm going to give dirty looks. I pull out a gun. Is he complicit? Yeah, maybe not. If I say, hey, Frank, I need to drive by this house because I'm going to shoot it up. And Frank's like, no, Scott wouldn't do that. He's such a nice, well-mannered guy. He wouldn't shoot anybody up. That's unbelievable. But Frank does it anyway. Frank, probably guilty under that example, as a complicitor. But he knew what the plan was. Like I said, you're a complicitor if you aid, assist, encourage, or abet. But you have to know what took place. It's like an accessory before or after the fact. Basically complicity, but that's an actual charge, whereas complicity is a theory of prosecution. They always throw that in. Usually like in a good drive-by, gang shooting, something along those lines. My guy didn't do it. My guy didn't do it. He didn't know. He didn't know. And then they say, well, Judge, we want the complicity instruction now as well. Really? That's funny. I thought you said he was the shooter. Now you're saying he's complicit, right? They do that all the time. So I just, like I said, I have a real problem with it. Criminal law is to hold people accountable for the actions that they do, knowingly do. The Supreme Court Justices, Neil Gorsuch, has said that he has a real problem with negligence standard in criminal law. I don't think you should have it at all. I really don't. Because it lowers the mental state culpability level as it relates to and it's just not a good theory. It's just not a good theory of prosecution. That's a civil thing. And basically what you're doing is, okay, we proved it beyond a reasonable doubt that it was reasonably foreseeable. See, I knew I wasn't making this up. Justice Neil Gorsuch, a Colorado guy, I might add, even though he spent most of his time at boarding schools on the East Coast. He was from here and he was on the 10th Circuit. Neil Gorsuch generally advocates for a higher mens rea mental state requirement in criminal law, often arguing against treating mere negligence or recklessness as equivalent to purposeful violent intent. He emphasizes strict statutory interpretation to prevent the over-criminalization of everyday behavior, often favoring the rights of the accused against broad government authority. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You want to over-criminalize everyday behavior? Just keep asking for a criminally negligent standard. You should have known better. No, I didn't. Yes, you should have. You should have known. And did we mention how tragic this was? And if you knew about it, you could have prevented it. But I didn't know about it. No, you should have known about it. You knew or should have known. That's the legal standard. Gorsuch has expressed concern that overly broad or vague criminal laws, often catching negligent acts, invite arbitrary and discriminatory enforcement, which is what I have said, have I not? Oh, this is great when it's a gun case, but how about when it's the juvenile that, punches the teacher in the nose, has drugs on him, takes the gun to school? Then are we going to prosecute the parents as well? Justice Gorsuch, his judicial philosophy often critiques the expansion of the criminal liability to include conduct lacking criminal intent, which he argues can lead to unfair prosecutions. So limit criminal liability to cases involving intentional or knowing actions rather than negligent, reckless, or unintentional acts. That's what I've been saying all along. But it makes everybody feel so good. No, this is the law. We don't care if people feel good about the results. We care about justice. And justice doesn't come with feeling good. It does not. All right? Just, I don't know. What did they say? Remember that old thing? There's no crying at baseball. There's no crying in the law. It's supposed to be rationally applied. The facts and the law, let the results come out whichever way they can. And, none of this, well, we got to make feel good. This unique, novel theory of prosecution against it. But we're only going to use them on gun cases. And I'm only aware of two now, Colin Gray and the Crumleys up in Michigan. Maybe they're going to try this unique theory of law, maybe in Chicago. Lots of killings up there just about every weekend. I think they're still the killing capital of the world. Maybe start prosecuting some parents, right? Hell, for the longest time, we didn't even prosecute parents for truancy unless we could actually prove that they're like, yeah, you don't need to go to school today. Yeah, we're going to go hang out together, sell some drugs on the street corner. Yeah. That's when the truancy cops would come in. Not the kids that parents think they're going to school and then they walk into school and then walk out the back door. They didn't prosecute parents for that. I mean, seriously, let me know. Let me go back to the comments here. Let me know if you think that I am all just screwed up, because, like I said, I did say the, young boys that allegedly raped the girl in Miami the other day, where happened last summer, but now they're finally indicted as adults, 12 and 13 years old. Do you think I'm wrong? I mean, generally, my heart goes, seriously, could not imagine. I've represented lots of people over the years, could not imagine having to deal with something like that as it relates to your own child, particularly at a young age, doing that. Now, don't get me wrong, right? If those parents have any sense of values, they're probably thinking, what have I done wrong? Everybody who's ever had kids is, oh my God, I'm a terrible parent. Oh, I've ruined my children. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Or did I go wrong? Everybody has done that. You can't beat yourself up. But when your kid's out there doing stuff at 12 or 13, and stuffing rocks in girls' mouths while you sexually assault them, I'm going to start thinking maybe something went wrong somewhere along the way. And like I said, I will give those kids the presumption of innocence. They are absolutely entitled to that. And like I said, the parents just couldn't imagine doing that. At that age, having kids that are going to go to prison, more than likely for the better part of their life, like, my first thought is, what a waste, right? What a complete waste of potential. But maybe that's the case where they need to do a little, novel legal theory and get convicted. Because right now, it's only been the gun cases of the, white middle class family parents that have gone to prison for that. And don't get me wrong, the Crumleys were not exactly the epitome of good parenting at that particular time. But like I said, criminal law, and like I said, it's not just me making this stuff up. It's been advanced in, legal decisions over the years that you shouldn't have such a low legal standard for criminal law. Let's see here. We just have a theme. Somehow particular night, it's like one particular person's comments come up. These kinds of situations make me wonder what's really going on behind closed doors. At home are the parents and the others of the family saying the kids, because no kids are going to wake up and decide to go do stuff like this. Just saying. You gotta make you wonder. Where did they learn this stuff from? There's lots. I don't know. Oftentimes you wonder, were the kids victim themselves? Were they abused themselves? What did they see that they think that it's okay to take a girl, hold her down, and, when she starts yelling and crying, Large Marge sent me again. I'm not defending anyone, but kiddos learn how to hide certain things. You think? Yeah. Something had to have gone wrong with these kids. Were they in a gang? Did they witness it as home or just watch movies that gave them the idea? Frank, do we have pictures of those young kids? I don't know if there's no mention that they were any sort of gang affiliation. There's no indication of that whatsoever. Their parents, obviously they're in court. Some parents would be like, I'm not going to court. Kid got himself in own problems. I don't need to be there. Somebody says they don't have to be a jerk. I guess that's about me. You don't have to be a jerk. Let's see here, Jeremy. Yep. Talked about this. Everyone wants mandatory sentences until they themselves or family members applied to. At one way. Totally correct. We talked about that in today's show. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. There are certain crimes that people need to be punished for, particularly, crimes of violence, things of that nature. But judges usually get that right. And they say the legislature says you need to impose a sentence to this particular range. If you shoot somebody and they die, general rule is, if there's a dead body, somebody's got to go to prison. And that's often, like I said, these cases, these gun shooting cases, the Colin Gray case, the parents in Michigan, basically it's like, well, we want justice, but the kid's a juvenile or he's dead, and now there's not enough justice. And if you're gonna have parents being charged with murder, maybe every school shooting, we should go back and charge the parents, right? Because there's no statute of limitations on murder. Think about it. We could go back to the original school shooting here in Columbine. Harris and Klebold, their parents were never charged. I mean, they were basically, shunned. I don't think they ever lived a normal life after that. But the reality of it is they, go back and charge them all, I say. You see what happens when you criminalize routine stuff. Like I said, being a parent. Pink. Even shows like SVU can give an impression of young kids' ideas. If they like what they see, they're not old enough to understand the consequences. It's all on TV. Broken homes are no excuse to do bad things to others. My mom had eyes on us kids and made sure that we stayed in line. My 2-year-old grandson is 2 and knows the difference between right and wrong. Heck, everyone in our neighborhood, they had permission to swat us upside the head if they thought that we were doing something stupid. And don't get me wrong, we did some stupid stuff, but the parents knew, you weren't going to go down like, don't touch my kid. How dare you discipline my kid? So here's these young kids, 12 and 13. Okay. 12 and 13. I mean, I don't know. Can't say, oh my gosh, look at this kid. I'm not even sure. Kid barely looks like he has hair under his armpits, for God's sakes. They look at that young. And, like I said, who knows? It's not like you got a couple of young kids going on, on the side of the house or in the barn saying, show me yours and I'll show you mine kind of thing that kids do, or sometimes, been known to do, so to speak. But when you start having sex with somebody and they don't want it, you got to stop. You can't do it unless you have permission, consent, joint venture, so to speak. What are your thoughts on involuntary manslaughter being charged as second-degree murder in Georgia when a child dies with criminal negligence? That's how they got Colin Gray. Don't like it at all. Jenny G, we've been talking about this. I don't like anything. Manslaughter, being charged as second-degree murder. Yeah, no. I mean, hopefully the appellate courts will fix this. And this is why we have different layers of courts. You got the trial courts where the trials are done, and you got all the emotions in there. And, try being the judge in there, trying to, be the King Midas, trying to split the baby, right? Make everybody happy, respect everybody's rights. Oh, gee, what am I going to do? Oh, if I split the baby. But that's what appellate courts are for. Appellate courts look at it, the cold, hard facts, the cold, hard record, and say, yeah, they just didn't prove it. And, of course, the trial judge is like, but you had to be there, but it didn't make it on the record. So it's not enough. And that's why appellate courts sometimes make what some people believe are unpopular decisions, is they reverse bad decisions by the trial court, who is trying their best to get it right. I don't think most trial judges intentionally try to get it wrong, but they're usually rooting for one particular side. And I assure you, it's not the defendant. Okay. And that's when appellate courts come in and they say, yeah, judge, I understand you were trying to help the prosecution because that's what you do, but you went a little too far. You got to at least give them a fair trial. For God's sakes, at least make it look like we're going to give them a fair trial. And that's when it gets reversed, right? Reversal comes when the court makes legal errors. And I know that there were decisions made by this trial judge that said, well, we're going to go ahead and allow that charge, go forward. And they're like, Judge, he didn't do it. How can you be convicted of involuntary manslaughter, charged a second-degree murder, right? You knowingly did something, but it's a child. Therefore, we're going to bump up the potential penalty range with a criminally negligent standard of you should have known. It's reasonably foreseeable, right? That's like when you got in trouble as a kid and your parents like, I didn't know that would happen. Because you were young and dumb and stupid, right? You're like, oh, I didn't know it was going to happen. They're like, you knew better. You should have known better. That's the same legal standard that they want to apply. Well, you should have known better. I mean, I'm so angry with you. We should have known better. And now they're just saying, yeah, we'll just charge all the parents. Like I said, I say, why stop there? If we're going to have a unique legal theory, let's not stop there. Let's go back to every school shooter and get all their parents and charge them. And let's not stop. Let's go all the way back to the original school shooting, right? Let's go back to Columbine. Hey, I mean, the parents are probably, I don't know, they're probably in their 60s, maybe 70s by now. Harrison Klebold, let's see. I remember I was still on active duty. It was in 99 when that took place. So what? I mean, the parents were probably in maybe their late 40s, 50s by the kids are in time in high school. So that's been another 25 years. And they're probably in their 70s for right now, right? Charge them. What about the school shooter in Tennessee, the girl that was all screwed up? How about, charge them all, I say, right? Sometimes you have to demonstrate absurdity with absurdity. But Scott, that was a long time ago. They didn't have unique legal theories back then. The law doesn't apply for that. That's just not fair. Doesn't matter. It's a novel theory. Let's criminalize everyday conduct, right? And this going back to Gorsuch. This is why I don't always agree with Justice Gorsuch, but I think for the most part, he tries to be intellectually honest. And that's what the law is supposed to be. Intellectually honest. And sometimes to be intellectually honest, you don't always get the result that you want. Okay. Gorsuch maintains that secular American criminal law should calibrate punishment based on different levels of responsibility, prioritizing purposeful actions as morally defining. He has argued that there is a significant moral and legal distinction between intended and merely foreseen consequences, such as in the context of physician-assisted suicide versus refusing life-sustaining care. In the Borden case in 2021, Gorsuch joined a plurality of the court to rule that a violent felony under the Armed Career Criminal Act must involve a mental state higher than recklessness. The decision held that crimes of recklessness, where a person consciously disregards a risk, do not qualify for the 15-year mandatory minimum. Going back to the fact that if you're going to have an Armed Career Criminal Act, the felonies better be knowingly, for God's sakes. Gorsuch said strongly supports the presumption of mens rea, the idea that if the statute is silent on the required mental states, court should presume the government must prove the defendant acted intentionally. Then we have the Gamez-Perez case when he was on the 10th Circuit. He argued that the government should have proven the defendant knew they were a felon to convict them of illegal firearm possessions. I was very familiar with that case. Rahif, same thing. Supreme Court later adopted this view, for Gorsuch joining the majority to require proof of knowledge that such status-based offenses. That one was, Rahif was the guy, he was here in America on a visa, went to a shooting range, took pictures of a gun. They charged him, said, you're a prohibited person. You can't have a gun. You're not a citizen. You're not a lawful permanent resident. They charged him. And he's like, I didn't know. and it went to the United States Supreme Court, and they said, yeah, you have to prove, government, that he knew what he was doing was unlawful. So anyway, and then also in 2025, Gorsuch authored a unanimous opinion allowing homeowners to sue the federal government under the Federal Tort Claims Act after FBI agents mistakenly raided the wrong house. During an argument, he expressed incredulous that the agents would not verify an address before knocking down the door. But that's a different status. But once again, going back to the mens rea elements as it relates to that. So, I mean, like I said, I know it makes everybody feel good. It's a terrible case. People are dead. Children are dead. There are guns. Did we mention their guns? That's what they're really saying. Did we mention there's guns, right? Because that gun just jumped up and practically wouldn't have done anything if that kid, dad, hadn't given it to him. Really? You think that kid, if he wanted to do something, he was going to get that gun, or he was going to come up with some other instrumentality of it? All right, ladies and gentlemen. Whew, I don't know about you, but I feel better. I feel better getting that off my chest. It just, it bugs me. It's bugged me for 25 years. And it's becoming more and more prevalent that we just want to reduce the legal mens rea requirements for crime. And like I said, be careful. Be careful, because it is going to bite you. What do you predict the sentence will be? Who's that for? Force Jolene? Unfortunately, I don't know much about the case. I don't know. No, let's see here. What do you predict the sentence will be? I'm sorry, Nana of 4-3. What case that is will be in force. I don't know. We talked about Misty. Misty Roberts, guilty. Colin. Oh, it's supposed to be Colin. Oh, what do you think it's going to be for Colin? Oh, he's going to get whacked. He's going to get whacked, Jenny. Supposed to be Colin. Sorry. I'm glad. I was like, what is that name? Colin. I think he's going to get whacked. And you know why he's going to get whacked? Because the district court judge, he's going to have the family in there. He's going to have the victims. They're all going to get up and speak and say how all these lives were removed and they had so much potential. And, they did nothing wrong. And they're all true. It's all true about that. And frankly, the son should get the bulk of it and should never get out of prison. And the dad's going to sit there and take it, and he's going to have to appeal it. And he testified, say he did nothing wrong. If I were him, I wouldn't say a damn word. But he may have taken away some of his appellate rights, but he's going to get whacked. That district court judge is going to whack him and whack him hard. And he is going to go to prison. My guess is may not be the maximum of 180 years, but he's 55 years old. You give this man a 20-year sentence, 30-year sentence. It's a life sentence, ladies and gentlemen. He's not getting out. I think the average life expectancy in prison is 61. You're not exactly got a high, chance of living to a ripe old age. I guess it's always possible, but not exactly the best healthcare, not exactly the best food. It's not like you're relaxing. You're looking over your shoulder all the time. It's ugly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we went long tonight because we started a little bit late. And guess what? I still got to do a little bit of work before I get to go home. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Go check out the show that we did tonight. Go check out all the links below. Check out the merch. Check out some guides that we've got for you as well. Check all that stuff out. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time. And remember, just like I think if Neil Gorsuch were here, he would say, the Constitution matters.